course, today I had to endure, many of us who have colonial descendancies had to endure the pontification and the greatness of the monarchy as they laid Queen Elizabeth to rest. Again, the human side. I feel for the kids. I feel for those who had a personal relationship with this queen. But I want all to realize that it is hard for those who have lived or who are the descendants from those who have lived under the horrors of what the British Empire really meant. It is hard to have this or watch this adoration. I call it PTSD generations removed. Because when you look at all the riches and the beauties and everything that these guys have, the wealth, we are looking at our those of us from the colonial British or the colonial Spanish or whatever, those of us are looking at those riches that were built on the backs of many of our forefathers, but not only built on the backs of many of our forefathers, but the riches extracted from our land, stolen, taken, pilfered. And we are supposed to sit back, bite our tongues, and just say, how beautiful. Watch Kate. Watch the prince. Watch the new king. All celebrating stolen. I don't want to be sour. But when you're asking some people to look at what's going on with the pomp and circumstances and all of that you're seeing on the TV right now, you're asking them to forget all the damage that lineage has done to you, and you are being asked to just be quiet and like it. It is wrong. It is completely and entirely wrong. Yes, have your funeral, have your little, but to have all the television stations, all of them, going to this and then and using narratives with how great this woman was. She was a nice lady, but she didn't ask for forgiveness for what she's done to billions, not her, but her wealth, what the wealth that she's living off of right now has done to the billions in the world. She hasn't asked for forgiveness. She hasn't spoken about reparations. She hasn't spoken about all those poor countries whose wealth they extracted. Well, let's make life better for them. We don't hear that. That is why I am so impressed with Ali Velshi, that I know it cannot be easy for Velshi to be doing this kind of narrative, because not only is he going to get it from many apologists here in the United States and the UK, as I've shown before with the videos that he's done, but even his management has to be a bit concerned of his honesty. So let's listen to the last one he did. I think he did this over the weekend.
Hi, this is Prince William and Kate riding through Jamaica in an open-top Land Rover. It was quite the stir back in March of this year, 2022. The royals were touring the Caribbean to mark Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee, 70 years of rule, not just over Great Britain, but as the head of state of many Commonwealth nations. William and Kate, at the time the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, participated in a Jamaican military parade. Perched in the back of the Land Rover, William saluting the crowd in a military uniform, his wife by his side dressed in all white. Now, if you put a black and white filter on this, it might be mistaken for this one. Queen Elizabeth II and her late husband, Prince Philip, riding through Jamaica in the same dark green Land Rover in 1953, back when the country was not a member of the British Commonwealth, but in fact was still an actual British colony. The vehicle itself is a relic of a colonial past in the most literal sense, and symbolically, the stark similarities between these two images underscore the lasting legacy of British colonialism. During that March 2022 trip, the Jamaican Prime Minister told Prince William and Kate that Jamaica would be, quote, moving on from the monarchy. Jamaica says it's going to hold a referendum before 2025 to decide if it wants to sever ties with the Crown, which for decades made fortunes off of the Caribbean islands' resources and through the slave trade, which passed through Kingston's port. Since Queen Elizabeth's death, several other Commonwealth realms, all former outposts of the British Empire, are reassessing their relationship with the monarchy. The Commonwealth of Nations is an international organization composed mainly of former British colonies. It rose from the ashes of the British Empire. At its peak in the 19th century, the empire covered a fifth of the world's surface, ruling about a quarter of the world's entire population. 413 million people fell under the British Empire after many decades of living under the ruthless reign. Let's just be clear. The ruthless reign of the British Empire. The colonies grew empowered to throw off the yoke of British imperialism, some quite violently. By the 1920s, most of the British colonies demanded self-government. Some didn't achieve it until late into the 60s and beyond, but the Commonwealth of Nations was created in its stead. They agreed to be equal in status and, quote, united by a common allegiance to the Crown. Today, there are 56 Commonwealth nations. Some of them are republics, have their own heads of state, and have recognized the Queen and now King Charles III as the head of the Commonwealth. Of those 56 nations, 15 are considered Commonwealth realms, these 15. In these realms, the British monarch is considered automatically to be the head of state. These realms include Antigua and Barbuda, Australia, the Bahamas, Canada, Grenada, Jamaica, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, Belize, the Solomon Islands, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Tuvalu, and of course, the United Kingdom. Barbados is the most recent realm to have become a republic. This island nation, by the way, Barbados, parted ways with the monarchy last November, removed Queen Elizabeth as its head of state. It remains within the Commonwealth of Nations, but no longer holds realm status. Other realms are now considering following in the footsteps of Barbados, by the way. Australia says it'll hold a referendum on shirking the monarchy no earlier than 2035. New Zealand's Prime Minister predicts it'll happen in her lifetime. A commission in Belize is poised to consider whether the Central American country should declare itself a republic. Antigua and Barbuda will vote on removing the British monarch as the head of state by 2025. And as I mentioned earlier, Jamaica plans to hold a referendum by 2025. There's something happening here, a reckoning of the past atrocities committed for the enrichment of the royal family and for Great Britain. Despite the fanfare and celebration to which we are all subject at the moment, the pomp and circumstance cannot gloss over the fact that the British Empire was brutal. The Commonwealth was a consolation prize. It was created as a vehicle to preserve Britain's global influence, a modern alternative to British colonialism. It kept the former colonies in the grips of the monarchy, teaching them how to behave, how to self-govern, stripping away elements of national identity. But for the most part, today, the monarch is simply a figurehead and not much more. What the early monarchy left behind is of much more consequence. The legacy of colonization, economic exploitation, violence, racism, bloody wars, and yes, while it is denied even by some who have appeared on this very show, slavery. Some Commonwealth nations are starting to realize they don't have much in common with the British monarchy anymore, and maybe creating some distance is a good thing.
As someone with Jamaican lineage, you know, some of my grandparents actually went over to Panama to build the Panama Canal, or either build the canal or be a part of the Panama Canal zone to do things when they came over there. So, you'll find that a lot of us in Panama actually have Caribbean. Well, actually, there's very much interchange between all the Caribbean islands and the northern coast in the case of Panama, the eastern coast in the case of all of the rest of Central America with the islands. There's interchange with Venezuela, Curacao, and all these other places. People just interchange around there. So we all have this British, Spanish, Dutch. All of these conquerors came in and did massive extraction on this place. And now these monarchs that were in the case of Great Britain, the family that most benefited from the pilfer of the islands, from the pilfer of the islands and the enslavement of people to work on those islands and create the sugar and dig for the gold and the zinc and all and the aluminum and all bauxite and all of that. You know, we are now expected to really think, oh, let's celebrate this monarchy. When you see monarchy, you may see something that you like. When I see monarchy, I see oppressor. When I see monarchy, I see thief. When I see monarchy, I see that which stole all of these things, that which put in bondage many. So look, if you are of the type that loves monarchies and enjoy the king and the queen, be well. But do not, please, ask those of us who know the history, whose ancestors have told the history, to somehow just forget about it. Because if it were something that affects many, and there are some examples that I would like to use, but I don't want, it's not proper at this point. But don't ask those who know about colonialism to somehow forget about it and just think it's great to have all this great pomp and circumstances for the queen. Don't expect it. In fact, I tell you, I remember the first time I landed in Jamaica on a cruise, and I saw the queen's face on the money. I was so not only disappointed, I got irate because I wondered what is taking so long to break those chains. But I digress. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.